In 1980, Zimbabwe celebrated its newfound independence from British colonial rule. The nation, formerly known as Rhodesia, was brimming with potential. With fertile lands, abundant natural resources, and a well-educated populace, Zimbabwe was poised for success. The world watched eagerly as the country embarked on its journey of self-governance and development. Zimbabwe's first years of independence were marked by hope and optimism. The government prioritized education and healthcare, sectors that had long been neglected under colonial rule. Schools and hospitals were built, and the literacy rate soared. For many Zimbabweans, the future seemed bright, and the promise of a prosperous nation felt within reach. However, beneath this veneer of progress lay deep-seated challenges. The economy was heavily reliant on agriculture, and land ownership was skewed in favor of a small white minority. While the government made strides in social services, economic disparities persisted. These underlying issues would later become focal points of contention and crisis. As Zimbabwe maneuvered through its early years, the struggle for equity and justice simmered beneath the surface. The nation's initial promise was undeniable, but so too were the complexities that shadowed its path forward. Robert Mugabe assumed leadership with a vision of unity and progress. Initially, his policies focused on reconciliation and nation-building. Mugabe's government invested heavily in education, leading to impressive gains in literacy and school attendance. These early achievements earned him admiration both domestically and internationally. Education became a cornerstone of Mugabe's early administration. By funneling resources into schools and teacher training, Zimbabwe quickly became one of Africa's most literate nations. The healthcare system also saw improvements, with increased access to medical services and better infrastructure. These advancements laid a strong foundation for societal growth. Despite these successes, Mugabe's leadership was not without its flaws. Political dissent was met with harsh repression, and allegations of human rights abuses began to surface. Mugabe's grip on power tightened, and his vision for Zimbabwe became increasingly autocratic. This authoritarian shift sowed seeds of discontent among the populace. Mugabe's early years were a paradox of achievements and authoritarianism. The promise of his leadership was overshadowed by the growing intolerance for opposition. As the 1990s approached, the challenges facing Zimbabwe became more pronounced, setting the stage for contentious policies that would alter the nation's trajectory. In 2000, Zimbabwe embarked on a controversial land reform policy. The initiative aimed to redistribute land from white commercial farmers to black Zimbabweans. While the intent was to address historical injustices, the execution proved disastrous. The abrupt seizure of farms led to chaos within the agricultural sector. The land reform was characterized by violence and disorganization. Many of the new landowners lacked farming experience and resources. As a result, agricultural productivity plummeted. Zimbabwe, once the breadbasket of southern Africa, faced severe food shortages. The economy, heavily reliant on agriculture, began to unravel. The impact on the rural population was profound. Unemployment soared as farm workers lost their jobs, and inflation began to rise. The international community condemned the land seizures, leading to sanctions and isolation. Zimbabwe's once thriving agricultural sector was in tatters, and the nation teetered on the brink of economic collapse. The land reform policy, meant to empower the disenfranchised, instead plunged Zimbabwe into a crisis. The fallout was felt across the country, exacerbating poverty and instability. This pivotal moment marked the beginning of a downward spiral that would culminate in one of the worst hyperinflation crises in history. Section 4. The Unfolding Hyperinflation Crisis. Zimbabwe's hyperinflation crisis is infamous in economic history. By the mid-2000s, inflation rates were spiraling out of control. The government's response to the economic downturn was to print more money, a move that only worsened the situation. Prices skyrocketed and the Zimbabwean dollar rapidly lost its value. Citizens faced unimaginable hardships. Basic goods became unaffordable and shelves in stores were often empty. People resorted to bartering, trading items like sugar and cooking oil instead of using the nearly worthless currency. The hyperinflation reached its peak in 2008, with an annual inflation rate estimated at 89.7 The social fabric of Zimbabwe was strained. Families struggled to meet basic needs and public services crumbled. The healthcare and education systems, once the pride of the nation, were in disarray. Emigration surged as Zimbabweans sought stability and opportunity abroad, leading to a brain drain that further weakened the country. The hyperinflation crisis was a devastating blow to Zimbabwe's economy and its people. The collapse of the currency eroded trust in the government and financial institutions. The aftermath left deep scars, and the road to recovery seemed insurmountable. Zimbabwe stood as a cautionary tale of economic mismanagement and its dire consequences. Section 5. Collapse of the Zimbabwean dollar and current state. The collapse of the Zimbabwean dollar was inevitable. In 2009, the government abandoned its currency in favor of foreign currencies, such as the US dollar and South African rand. This decision brought some stability, but the damage was extensive. The economy was shattered, and rebuilding trust in financial systems was a formidable challenge. Zimbabwe's current state is a mix of recovery and persistent challenges. The use of foreign currency has stabilized inflation, but economic growth remains sluggish. The agricultural sector, once a pillar of the economy, is struggling to regain its former strength. Unemployment and poverty levels are high, impacting social cohesion. The political landscape remains contentious. Leadership changes have brought new promises, but the legacy of past mismanagement looms large. Efforts to attract foreign investment are ongoing, yet skepticism about governance and corruption persists. The path to recovery is fraught with obstacles, and progress is slow. Zimbabwe's journey from collapse to potential recovery is ongoing. The scars of hyperinflation and economic turmoil are deep, and rebuilding requires sustained effort and commitment. While there are signs of hope, the lessons of the past serve as a stark reminder of the consequences of policy missteps and the importance of sound governance. Section 6. Reflections on potential recovery. Reflecting on Zimbabwe's journey, the path to recovery is complex. The nation has shown resilience, but overcoming the legacy of hyperinflation requires more than economic reforms. Social cohesion, political stability, and international support are crucial components of a sustainable recovery. There is potential for growth in several sectors. Agriculture, with the right support and investment, can regain its status as an economic driver. Tourism too offers opportunities, with Zimbabwe's rich cultural heritage and natural beauty attracting interest. Harnessing these resources could provide a foundation for economic revival. The role of the international community is vital. Support in the form of investment, debt relief, and technical assistance can aid Zimbabwe's recovery efforts. However, these must be coupled with strong governance and anti-corruption measures to ensure that aid is effectively utilized and benefits reach the populace. Zimbabwe's story is one of caution and hope. The nation's downfall through hyperinflation highlights the importance of sound economic policies and responsible governance. As Zimbabwe navigates its path forward, the resilience of its people and the lessons of the past will shape its future. Recovery is possible, but it requires concerted effort and a commitment to change.